Good morning, members. In the absence of our planning committee chair this morning, I wonder could I get a nomination for pro tem chair for this morning's reconvened planning committee?
Thank you, Sinead. I propose Councillor Tommy Maguire to chair the committee pro tem.
I'm happy to second that, Madam Chair.
Okay, members. Walter Rove, Rashkaji and Dara Kudgeton, Plana, you're all very welcome to the second part of this month's planning committee. So item 1 on the agenda is apologies. We have an apology from Councillor Campbell. Any further apologies? Councillor Mahan, thank you, Paul. Councillor McGrath, John. Councillor Ehrman, thanks for that, John. And Councillor McElduff is on his world tour. That's grand. Item 2 on the agenda, declarations of interest. Any declarations, members? None indicated. Okay, moving on then to the plan presentation. And it's item 4 to consider 4 files for decision by the planning committee, paper B. And the first one on the agenda is application number 6. Are you Darren, please?
Okay. Good afternoon, members. Just application number 6 in is LA 10 2025-0494, an outline application for proposed dwelling and garage on the Omer Road, and the applicant then is J&M Mimna. The recommendation is to refuse planning permission for the reasons listed within the report, and subject to the 4 reasons. Just a bit of an update, members. There was a request received last Friday from the agent seeking a deferral as he was unable to attend the meeting on Wednesday. I replied back to say that we'd put that to you today for a decision, but also pointed out that there was likely to be a meeting today on the Friday, a reconvened meeting. Asked was he able to attend that. So the agent has emailed in and said that he certainly couldn't make the Wednesday meeting, and he was unlikely to be able to make the meeting today. The reason for that, members, is for personal medical issues in relation to a doctor's appointment on Wednesday and surrounding issues related to that. So although our protocol doesn't really specifically allow for a deferral of an application in those circumstances, they are very unique to the agent, I think, and it's only fair, in my view, that we would agree to the deferral. However, it's a decision for members to make today.
Mr. McLaughlin, go ahead, John.
Thank you, Chair. And I think Darren has given a certain emphasis, and I know that our normal policy is that this wouldn't be. But given taking the officers, the method and the tone that the officer has given, I believe possibly we should go for a deferral on this one.
Earl, go ahead, Earl.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. And because of what the officer has said, I'll second Councillor McLaughlin's proposal.
So that, Earl, well, members, we have a proposal to defer. Proposed and second. Are we all agreed? Agreed. Okay, thank you, members. So, is that deferral? We move on then to application number 7. Darren, whenever you're ready.
Yep. So application number 7 then, LA 10 2025-0275, an outline application for a farm dwelling and detached domestic garage on the Crockenboy Road in Greencastle. And the applicants are P&A Hollywood and Killorn. The recommendation is to refuse planning permission for the reasons listed within the report and subject to the 4 reasons. Again, members, just take you through some of the details. On the screen then, you can see the farm maps of the applicant. So there is a farm business that's active and established. The site itself then is outlined on the screen in the red line. So it's a red rectangular plot. adjacent to the public road which runs to the sort of left of the site. So just to zoom in a bit closer, you can see then the red line of the application site. It includes part of the wider field, and I'll come on to that in a second. There is a dwelling then immediately sort of over across the road. So if we just take some critical views in, if you're standing looking at the site from the aerials, you can see then the red line of the application site. The blue then would be the approximate position of where a house would be proposed. And you can see then the proximity to the adjacent dwelling. Okay.
Sorry, there's some interference online there. If anyone in the lobby could indicate or put themselves on mute, please.
Okay. So just to go back to the members, just so that's the aerial image, the flyover image. You can see the red line is the approximate position of where the site is, and then a blue rectangle would be roughly where I assume the position of the house is to go. Critical views in, so you can see then the road running along the left-hand side of the site. If you're in the position of the yellow star looking at the field, you can see the red rectangle then is the outline of the application site. There is a green rectangle there, members. I've put that on the slide to show you that's an adjacent hedge or boundary along the side of the field. And that then, members, is a view looking into the application site. So you can see the green stars, that sort of rectangular shaped area that I have identified, which is the field boundary. The site itself then is a red rectangle, just cut out of the larger field. So there's no established boundaries at all to the three sides within the field. So the reason for 1 and 2, adverse impact and visual amenity, prominence, and relies on substantial new landscaping. Just looking around to the right a bit more again in relation to those issues, you can see the boundary over on the left, which is the post and wire fence and the gorse hedge along it. The site itself then is approximately, members. It's very difficult to do because there are no boundaries on the field to identify where the plot will be, but as best I can measure it, that's where I assume the house is to be sited and the site boundaries. Looking over to the right again, you can see then approximately where the boundary would be. It may be further back in the site, but the house will be approximately in this position. So you can see the yellow stars where the house would approximately be. Again, then just turning around and looking back down the road, you can see the site is on the left-hand side and the field, edge of the field, then you have a post and wire fence along the edge. Some more views in, members. So this is back down the road slightly looking up. The site is on the right-hand side behind the gate there, where you can see the yellow star, and the green star identifies that other boundary, the field boundary. But our site doesn't include that and doesn't have any boundaries at all on three sides. Again, then just back going further up the road, turning around and looking back on yourself, you can see the field gate, and the site then is just in behind that field gate where the yellow star is. And again, that's the boundary along the side where the green star is. So down then on the other road, looking up towards the application site, you can see the existing dwelling on the left-hand side there. Our site then is up on beside that, up on the top of the slope there, up near the hill. Another view then just looking up towards it, so you can see the prominence of it in terms of the landscape and topography, and also the lack of enclosure. Again, just another view down from the lower road looking up. So those are the reason 1 and 2 in terms of the visual tests. Reason 3 then is it's not cited to visually link or cluster an established group of buildings or farm. It doesn't fall within either of the 2 exceptions to permit an off-site location, and also wouldn't visually integrate onto the site. So you can see the left image then is a flyover of the location of the proposed house, would be the yellow star. The farm group then is further on up the road, as identified by the red arrow. And the image on the right then is the agent's drone image, which just reinforces, I think, the fact that there is a significant separation between the 2. You can see on the agent's image, there's a house and a garage to the bottom left. And I'll show you an image of that shortly. There's also a mobile home, members. That's not part of this application. And can't be taken into consideration. So it's really just the house and garage that are material to this application. So down on the ground again, looking up, the site then is on the right-hand side with the yellow star, and you can see the farm group further along the road up on the left-hand side. So it doesn't visually link with that. clear sense of physical separation. That is the farm group that's further on up the road. So you can see the buildings there. So there is a clear cluster of buildings there. Across the road, there's a second group of farm buildings, and there's an approval in there for replacement dwelling, which was granted in January 23 for G Hollywood. And you can see then the block plan in the top right shows the old dwelling is to be replaced with a new dwelling. So that was permitted and is in proximity to the farm group immediately beside it and also across the road, but it was granted full planning approval. In terms of the adjacent dwelling, so you can see then number 212 is the postal address we have for it. That's across the road, but the site itself then, again, as a view of officers, there's a clear sense of physical separation between the site and that dwelling. So it doesn't visually link with a cluster of buildings on the farm. And that's the house. Just some of the agent supporting images. So you can see down in the bottom road looking up again, the principal farmhouse is on the left, and then you have the proposed site and the other farm buildings and the replacement dwelling. And I'm sure he'll go into discussions on that in more detail. Again, then another image presented by the agent in support of the application, and you can see the proposed site on the right and the dwelling then on the left. The final reason for refusal reason 4 relates to the location within the Sperrin AONB. This proposal would adversely affect or work to erode the distinctive special character of the AONB due to the lack of integration, the prominence, and the physical sense of separation from any other buildings. So it would impact upon the special character of the AONB. So 4 reasons for refusal, members. You have those in front of you. No need for me to go through those again. So the recommendation then is to refuse, subject to those 4 reasons.
Thanks for that, Darren. We have speaking rights granted to Kevin McConnell, the agent. If you come forward here, Kevin, please, to the speaker area. Okay, Kevin, you were with us the other day. You have 10 minutes now to present to the committee, and I'll give you an indication when there's a minute left. Okay, Kevin?
I got a for presentations. No problem.
I have no other say in time.
Stop here and do it again. Nice to stop sharing. Oh, hang on. You skip it. How do you get out of that? Stop there. So be sharing.
We're all right. Good morning. Perfect.
Okay, Kevin, 5 minutes left. Sorry, we'll start the clock now. Kevin, take it away there.
Through you, Chair, good morning, members. Thank you for this opportunity to address the committee. My name is Kevin McConnell from KM Planning. I'm representing the applicants Pierce Hollywood and Aoife Clorne in relation to this outline proposal for a farm dwelling in Crockenboy Road. So members, the site lies approximately 1.5 miles west of Greencastle and around 6 miles east of Corchin, within a well-established agricultural landscape. It forms part of a 29-hectare holding, which has been continuously active, and this is verified by DAERA. The area is characterised by traditional farm clusters and dwellings, including the applicant's principal farmhouse and yard located just to the north on Crockenboy Road. The red line on this plan shows the application site positioned directly opposite the principal farm dwelling. It's been carefully selected to maintain a visual link and clustering relationship with that group of buildings at 216A Crockenboy Road. From the public road, both the existing farmhouse and the proposed site are visible together, clearly reading as one coherent group. Exactly the intent of the policy. The site also avoids amenity and safety conflicts with a working yard, sitting in a hollow with natural boundaries, and integrates well within the landscape, and the most practical and policy compliant location for a family dwelling associated with a farm. This aerial image demonstrates how the proposed site relates visually to the established farm group. The red line marks the proposed site directly opposite 216A Crockenboy Road, the main farm complex visible beyond. All elements sit comfortably within the same visual envelope, and the public road does not interrupt this connection. They read as one farm cluster when viewed from Crockenboy Road, consistent with the LDP's definition of visually linked and clustered. And importantly, this location also avoids the operational hazards and noise associated with the active farmyard, maintaining both a functional and visual connection without creating conflict. Here we see a concept layout for a dwelling and a garage, and the design clusters naturally with the existing farmhouse, following established field boundaries and hedgerows. Access is achieved through the visibility displays, with existing hedges to be retained, and the proposal integrates SUDS, native biodiversity planting, energy efficiency design, including passive solar orientation and provisions for renewables. The planting includes 47 metres of native hedging and 5 well-established native trees as part of the concept. Under Section 6 of the Planning Act, members' decisions must accord with the LDP unless material considerations indicate otherwise. The principle gives members discretion to reach a balanced decision where the evidence supports it. The SPPS promotes sustainable rural housing for active and established farms, a policy carried through in the HOU 11, supported by the design policies. Members may also note that the recent planning committee approval, where a dwelling visually linked across a public road was accepted under identical circumstances. Building on Traditions Guide similarly confirms that visual linkage across a road is appropriate where a building reads together within the same landscape setting. Turning to consultations, members, no statutory consultee has objected. DFI roads confirm compliance with standard visibility requirements. NI Water and NIEA raised no concerns, and DAERA verified that this is an active and established farm business operating well over 6 years. There have been no third-party objections. Accordingly, the only issue before members today is the officer's interpretation of visual linkage, clustering and integration, and not any technical or environmental constraint. The officers are turning to the refusal reasons then, members, so I'll pick up on refusal reason number 3 first, as visual linkage and clustering. The officer's concern is that the site is not visually linked or clustered with the established farm group. However, members can clearly see that the farmhouse in blue on this image and the yard in yellow and the proposed site all fall within the same visual frame. The road does not break that connection. It remains one cohesive farm cluster. Locating the dwelling closer to the yard would conflict with health and safety and amenity, and the chosen site achieves a logical offset while maintaining the relationship required under HOU 11. This interpretation is consistent with committee precedent, which has accepted visual linkage across a minor road in comparable rural settings. Members, from the road in the Crockenboy Road, the site rises up to the farm or to this site and then plateaus or hollows out and then rises again up to the farmyard. So to cluster, members, the definition, DOE building on tradition defines clustering as a grouping of buildings so that they form a compact, coherent entity within the landscape rather than appearing scattered. That's exactly the case here. The proposal clusters with the principal farmhouse and its associated buildings. It reinforces rather than fragments the traditional rural pattern of development. Visual linkage, the same guidance states that building is visually linked when it reads as part of an existing group, even if separated by a road or field boundary. The site sits within a low-lying field, sharing the same enclosure and backdrop as the farm, meaning any physical separation is barely perceivable. From public viewpoints, the buildings read as one group, the essence of visual linkage under the policy. Established group of buildings on the farm, the LDP defines an established farm group as a recognisable permanent cluster forming the operational base of a farm business, displaying physical and visual cohesion. That definition precisely describes 216 and 216A Crockenboy Road, the operational core of this 29-hectare farm. The proposed site reads naturally with that grouping, reinforcing the integrity of the holding rather than creating a new or isolated element. So members, this is a ground level photograph taken from the Crockenboy Road, and it illustrates the visual relationship clearly. Within this single view, members can see the farmhouse, farm buildings, and the proposed site outlined in red. The new dwelling would nestle between them, maintaining both functional and visual connection without visual intrusion. The landform is low-lying and well contained, with existing hedgerows and mature trees providing natural enclosure in the backdrop. This is a textbook example of a farm dwelling that is visually linked and clustered in accordance with the policy. As you can see from the images, the land rises from the Crockenboy Road, dips back down into a hollow where the site is to be located, and rises again up towards the farmyard, providing a backdrop. DAERA maps confirm that the holding extends to approximately 29 hectares. DAERA has verified the business is active and established, and this meets the criteria for the policy, reinforcing that this is a genuine working farm. Members, policy HOU 11 permits a farm dwelling to either cluster or visually integrate with existing buildings. Here it does both. It clusters with the principal farmhouse across the lane and visually integrates, and with the wider farm complexes on the holding. Design principles from building on tradition have been applied. The house uses a natural hollow to reduce prominence, sits back from the road, respects traditional scale and orientation, and faces south. Overall, it's a context-sensitive and landscape-responsive proposal that reinforces rural character. This plan shows how the holding functions through two interrelated clusters. Cluster 1 contains the main yard, and Cluster 2 contains the principal farmhouse at 216A Crockenboy Road and the proposed site outlined in red. Both clusters operate as one active farm business, and the proposed dwelling naturally relates to Cluster 2 while remaining visually connected to the wider group, a pattern typical of traditional dispersed rural farmsteads. So refusal reason 3 to summarise, members. In summary, the refusal reason regarding visual linkage is not supported by the physical evidence. The proposed dwelling clearly reads with the farmhouse, and the site remains part of the same coherent farm cluster. Its siting achieves health and safety and amenity separation without loss of visual association and mirrors accepted committee precedent elsewhere in the district. Other material considerations beyond strict policy compliance also weigh strongly in favour of the approval. Health and safety, the site avoids conflict with machinery and livestock movement. Residential amenity provides a safe, comfortable separation from the yard while maintaining a farm connection. Future expansion, it reserves the area around the yard for farm development and expansion. The farm role, the applicant assists with the family farm business but is not engaged in daily operation. This offset is a practical and appropriate response. Taken collectively, these considerations carry significant weight under Section 6 of the Planning Act. In terms of policy compliance then, when you're assessing the policy against the 4 tests of HOU 11, all 4 criteria are met, confirming full compliance with HOU 11. In terms of refusal reasons 1, 2 and 4, integration, the officer report claims the proposal would appear prominent and rely on new planting potentially affecting the Sperrin A1B. In reality, the site sits in a lower elevation, naturally framed by existing hedgerows in the backdrop and the farm group behind. Integration is achieved through siting, landform, and the relationship to surrounding buildings, not solely through vegetation. And this proposal demonstrates that clearly, members. It is important to note that houses cannot appear invisible in the landscape, and unless a replacement site with existing boundaries was being used, then a degree of additional planting or work will be required to assist that integration for a new dwelling in the countryside. So evidence to support integration. Members can see from the image.
Minute left, Kevin.
Thank you. Members can see from the image that 2 established boundaries in the green lines frame the site. Clustering with the farmhouse enhances integration, and the site lies within a hollow below the ridge, reducing visibility. The backdrop of the farm buildings and mature trees provides additional containment. Integration in this context is about how the dwelling reads within the setting, and the site achieves that balance. Should members wish to retain additional control, standard conditions can be included. These include dwelling location on the approved plans to be conditions, native landscaping scheme to be conditions, and a restriction on the ridge height to maintain a low profile design. These simple measures ensure development remain low lying, well integrated and visually recessive within the A1B. With the recommended conditions, I believe that the proposal complies with the design policies and confirms the schemes represents good rural design. To conclude, members, the proposal clusters and visually integrates with the established farm group, satisfying HOU 11. The farm is active and established. The site is low-lying and naturally contained. Health and safety and amenity factors justify the chosen offset. Any remaining concerns can be addressed by condition, and the proposal aligns with the SPPS and the development plan strategy. Under Section 6 of the Planning Act, Members may attach determining weight to these clear material considerations. Given the strong policy compliance, supporting precedent and ability to mitigate through condition, I respectfully invite members to overturn the officer's recommendation and grant the planning permission for this modest and well-sited farm dwelling with the recommended conditions delegated to officers. Following members' feedback from Wednesday, I hope that I have responded to the refusal reasons to your satisfaction, and I am happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Okay, Kevin, thanks for that. Very comprehensive. An opportunity for members for questions now. Any questions for Kevin, members? Councillor McLaughlin.
Thank you, Kevin. Very precise and covered everything there. You mentioned precedent quite a few times, and you name one example. Whilst I can't remember this one off the top of my head, you say yours is similar. So I don't believe we have set precedents. We're closely monitored by our officers and our legal team, and if we were to step outside, so we judge each case on its own merits. So I'm looking to see what is similar, what the similarities are, so that if we have done this before, why is it this one so similar that we would maybe come to the same decision? Because each one we judge on their own merits. So I'm not seeing, I don't believe we set a precedent, and I'm looking to see where you think this precedent has been set, and so that's basically, I'm throwing it back to you, or else if you can maybe give us more about the other case, we might remember it ourselves.
Yeah. It's actually in your pack there, members. So you'll see on the slide in relation to other material considerations. The last bullet point refers to the precedent, and there's the reference number. So it's from February of this year. And to the right of that then is a snip then obviously of that approval. So you'll see from the diagram or the map that they illustrated, the sort of green line is the new site, or is where, and the building beside that is where the new site is. But the farm cluster or the buildings associated with the farm is actually across the road and 2 fields away. And that was kind of the precedent that I was showing, that whilst I believe actually the site that I have proposed in front of you actually clusters better. Yes, there's issues with integration, but as I've said in my presentation, integration isn't just about planting hedges or trees. There's other factors that need to be considered. And I think that is enough. I actually think that even under policy, there's enough there to allow us to approve this today. But I think that precedent backs it up even more.
Okay. Thanks for that, Kevin. Any further questions for Kevin? If not, Kevin, you're free to return to that.
Thank you, members.
I'll be here. Okay. Darren, any comments from Darren there?
Members, yeah, just in relation to that, obviously the agent put forward his case and the planners have put forward their views and interpretation of the policy within the report and also in the slides, and I don't really propose to go over that again. The issue of precedent, though, members, is raised and is constantly raised with me as a planning officer. The precedent for me is the wrong word. It's very, very difficult, if not impossible, to get 2 sites the exact same. What you're looking at is consistency of decision making, and we had the same issues on Wednesday. So are we being consistent in our interpretation of policy? So if we're doing the policy interpretation on one site, are we doing the same on the next? That is what's the question. Just because one site's been approved doesn't mean you approve, another one elsewhere. So every site's different. This site is different to the previous one that's been raised. That other site had a boundary around the side and the rear, big mature trees around the back of it. The issue really related to whether you could put a 2-story house on it, etc. So members were of the view that it did integrate. You saw from the slide there was only really one new boundary along the side, a short boundary along the side, which needed to be planted up. It was the corner of a field where the house members were of the view it fitted in well. Unlike this site, which is just a rectangle cut out of a large field, there are no established boundaries on those 3 sides within the field. So there's no sense of enclosure for a building. It'll just sit in the middle of that field. So that's the difficulty there, members. To say, in terms of the other issues, there's a 29 hectare holding, members. There are alternative sites that we as planners can easily identify and look for and assist the applicant with. And I'm sure with a degree of will on their part, we will be able to find a house on this site if that option was the one that you would take. Happy to take any questions.
Okay, members, further questions for Darren? If not, if we could have some discussion on the matter. Councillor O'Reilly, Tom, go ahead.
Chair, I think we seem to have a run of these this month where, you know, discussion with our planning officers and the agent and applicant, and to look at alternative sites before we get in to the committee would be useful. And in that basis, I'm proposing that we put a hold option there to allow further discussion to look at alternative sites.
Thank you, Tom. Councillor McLaughlin.
Yeah, and I think we are setting a precedent here, and I'm going to second Councillor O'Reilly's proposal on this occasion. It's something I suppose we've discussed. It is each one's on an individual, and I don't believe that we have shown how this one was similar to that one. So I'm happy to go with this hold option as well.
Thank you, John. You okay with it?
Yes.
Okay, members, we have it proposed and seconded that we have a hold on this with the 2 weeks for further consultation to take place. Hold on, sorry, go ahead, Eric.
Chair, just to confirm with the hold option as per Wednesday, it's the 2 week slot. Is that correct? Thank you.
So that there. Okay, members, it's been proposed and seconded to hold. All agreed? Agreed.
Okay, so members, the recommendation was to refuse planning permission for the reasons listed in the report and subject to 4 reasons. Members have agreed to hold the application under the planning committee protocol and delegate the application back to the nominated officer for decision with no further recommendation to the planning committee. Officers will hold the issuing of a decision for a period of 2 weeks to allow discussion of potential alternative solutions or options with the applicant or agent.
Thanks for that, Darren. I'm sorry, could it be recorded that Councillor Devine Gallagher dissented from that decision? Thank you. Okay, moving on, members, then to application number 8. Over to you, Darren.
Yeah, so number 8 then, LA 10 2025-0133, full application for a retrospective general purpose agricultural shed for Mr. Mimna, and the location then is on the Hawthorne Road in Omagh. The recommendation is to refuse planning permission for the reasons within the report and subject to 2 reasons. So again, members, just to run through the details then, on the screen you can see the red line is the site location plan. Blue line then is the additional lands within the control of the applicant. Within that then, members, there are 2 third-party lands, and you can see those hatched in on the slide. So the red line includes the rectangle of where the building will go, and also then the access route into the site. So the application is accompanied by a farm business map, which is on the screen. You can see the holding then in the farm business. Site plan, then it's a full application, so the block plan accompanying the application, it does show the proposed details. So say you can see the Hawthorne Road down in the bottom left. Access then comes in, runs along the laneway up towards the site, which is identified up by the black arrow. The grey rectangle then is the location of the building. Building itself then, you can see the floor plan is proposed. The floor plan is on the screen in front of you. The building, the elevations then, it's 8.4 by 36.5 by 18.2 in height, or sorry, in width. And the front elevation then with the 2 roller shutter doors, double doors on the left and a pedestrian door on the right. And the rear elevation then is a solid wall. Side boundary then, the right hand side is a solid wall. The left one then has a number of windows across it. So the height of it's 8.4, length 36.5, width is 18.2, and the overall area is 664 square meters. Internally then, remember, you can see on the screen just to go through what's proposed. So just in the top left, the general purpose agricultural store includes a food store, includes a WC, a tea prep area, a small tool store, and a farm office with a window and the double doors. And over on the right then has the 4 lambing pens. Internally then there's room for the vehicles, which you can see examples of those annotated on the plan. Aerial images then, looking down on top of the building. So this is the location on the site. The Hawthorne Road runs along the bottom. There's a annotation then of the laneway coming in as a Hawthorne Road, but that's not public road, that's a private road. That serves up into the location of the site, but shows you how to get access. The building then is located by the red arrow, and you can see a number of other buildings nearby. Just to go through the reasons for refusal then, 1 and 2. Proposal would unacceptably affect the residential amenity of nearby properties by way of general disturbance, and also then the second, result in detrimental impact in the amenity of residential dwellings outside the holding. In the supporting statement, the agent has rebutted that, and that's on the screen just for review. So the proposed shed is a general purpose shed located further away from the closest neighbour. Closest residential dwelling 63 metres away from the rear of the shed. As the shed is a general purpose shed with only lambing pens in it, no odour or noise will be generated. The openings on the building are on the opposite side of the nearest receptor, and that is correct. It does face away from the nearest neighbours. So you can see then the nearest neighbours, there's number 25, number 19, and number 15. And then number 17 then is the applicant's control. Other properties then across the road. So looking at those properties then, you can see then the third party dwellings. So you can see number 15 and number 19 then are the nearby. And if we just look then at the proximity of those properties to it, so if we start over at number 25 in the top left, that's 104 metres. Number 19 then at the bottom is around 80 metres to the corner of the house, or 74.5 to the corner of the garage, and 63 metres to the corner of the garage. Now the building, as the agent points out, does face to the northeast of that slide. It doesn't face towards number 19, and the elevation towards number 19 is a solid wall. Over to the right then, you can see number 15 is 90 metres from the edge of the building to the building. So just some images then of the existing buildings that are on the holding. So you can see those on the left slide, and then the new building then is on the right hand side. You can see the proximity of that new building to the old buildings over on the left. So you'll note from the report, Environmental Health have provided advice. They have replied that they're not content, do not support the application. Just some of their comments and members. They advise the planning department the separation distance should include the outdoor immediate area of the third party receptors, and it's not accepted that only a designated area of the shed used for animal activity can be used as a mitigating measure in a building of this size. EHS reiterate that farm buildings have the potential to cause public health nuisances from odour, noise and pests. They recommend a minimum separation distance of 75 metres from adjacent third party receptors, and currently the separation distance would only be about 60 metres. Due to limited separation distances, EHS cannot support the application. Their advice is for planning officers and ourselves and the council members to balance in the whole, and it's for a decision to make whether you think the application is acceptable or not, having regards to the advice of Environmental Health. In terms of the agent then, he's rebutted those, and just on the screen you can see the distances to those two closest properties. So again, down to the bottom left of the yellow star, there's a neighbour, and then over on the right at the yellow star, there's a neighbour as well. And the agent said actual farm activity for animals is at the far end of the building and achieves a 75 metre separation distance. There's no openings on the rear, and the prevailing wind direction is away from the closest third party receptor. The remainder of the shed is for general purpose farm activity, including storage and minor vehicle repairs on a casual basis only. The property over on the left then again is 104 metres. So that's the one that would be away from the prevailing winds. In terms of the second reason, the farm business has not been established for at least 6 years. You'll note the policy says that the council will support proposals for agricultural development where it's demonstrated the farm business is currently active and established for 6 years. It then goes into the clarification and more details that one of the clearest ways of demonstrating the farm business is currently active is providing an active DAERA business number and evidence of receipt of entitlements. Where applicants do not have a business ID number or evidence of receipt of entitlements, then the applicant must submit accounts, details of any agreement which are linked to the farm business. In all cases, this must cover a minimum of 6 years. So we have the information on the farm business number, and DAERA have come back and confirmed that that was allocated in April 2024, and their claims have been made in 2024. So they only really have 1 year of claims. And the requirement then is to demonstrate 6 years. So the applicant then has put forward a case in relation to the farm business saying that it's not been established for 6 years. However, the farmlands have been actively farmed for at least 6 years. The applicant does have lands in this farm holding, register an active farm business number, and then goes through and includes details of that in relation to a variety of receipts. So just to go through those, members, example of these. So these are the receipts, examples of the receipts that have come in. So you can see from a variety of people. So there's a battery from Stephen Hunter, O'Neill contracts for digger hire. You then go through Fane Valley at tractor, and then McCullough's receipt of Red Derv. Harper Brothers cash sale for a slosher shaft, and then another invoice in on the right hand side for a number of pieces of equipment. BD's in again, a receipt on the left, Fane Valley on the right, McCurvey then on the left, and McDermott's then on the right. Again, then LT Nursery, McDermott's again, and Adair Auto Parts. And you can see then the types of equipment, materials that have been purchased. Kenwells again, then on the left, and MDE Agri Parts. WW Tires and batteries in, and then included. So those are an example, members, of the variety, and there is a variety of businesses that have been submitted. One of the issues, though, members, is of the 29 receipts provided, 17 are for cash sales, so they're not directly linked to the applicant. They don't refer to any farm business or directly to the applicant. There is a handwritten note on a significant number of those, and I've just snipped it out there, members, as an example of that handwritten note. And you can see there it says Ref Hawthorne Road, Mimna. That handwritten note is repeated across a significant number of the receipts. So that was raised with the agent just to see what that related to. You can see in the left end on the 13th of October, the agent came back and said that the invoices with the similar writing on them, they're all cash sale invoices. This is normal for small sale items that would have been collected from the business rather than being delivered. The applicant or his accountant would have added the writing for record purposes to assign the VAT, etc., to the farm business for the Hawthorne Road. It would appear that this was for accounting purposes. So given the policy requirement in relation to the submission of accounts, I went back and asked, would they be willing to provide those, the farm accounts? 15th of October, then the agent came back and said the accounting purposes was where the invoices were set aside from the applicant's main full-time business, which is not farming. The farm business is not large scale, does not qualify for VAT, reclaim, etc. So these invoices were separated from his main business by adding the reference onto them so that they could not be logged into the full-time business and claimed back incorrectly. So the agent, I'm sure, will clarify that in relation to the name of those. But members, the policy does say you have to demonstrate 6 years. The information is coming in with these cash sales and then the handwritten note on them. It's very difficult to link those across to the farming business. As officers, we can't say they are related to the farming business. The nature of them as well, heavy batteries, etc. It's very difficult to see, and there's no statement about how they are related to farming. Reason 2 is not necessary for the efficient use of the holding. The agent has come back and said currently the existing buildings are full to capacity for storage and are 3 small separate buildings not fit for purpose for modern machinery or farming methods. Again, in the bottom left, you can see the agent said the existing building area is 196, the proposed is 678. Existing buildings are currently full to capacity and the applicant removing them once the new shed is complete. When the ancillary sheep pens are removed, the remaining storage area will be 379 square metres, which is a modest increase considering the existing sheds cannot hold machinery. There's also a note on the drawing says the applicant currently has 30 sheep registered and this is not expected to increase. During lambing season, lambs will be around 20 and they will house for 3 months maximum. So again, members, just to remind you, on the left is the existing buildings and then you can see the new building on the right. So a significant increase in the sheer physical size of the building with the 2 large roller shutter doors on the front. Internally, again, in terms of the building being necessary for the efficient functioning of the farm holding, just to remind you, we do have a food store, a tea prep area, a small tool store and a farm office. There's also a significant area of storage inside the building, but no details really in relation to the machinery that the applicant owns or controls and will be used to be stored in this building. So the size of the building isn't being linked to any existing machinery, etc., that needs to be stored. The lambing pens again on the right are temporary and will be removed, which will increase further the amount of storage space on the site. Members, for the reasons listed within the report, subject to 2 reasons, the recommendation is to refuse planning permission.
Thank you, Darren. Again, we have speaking rights. We have Paul Brady, the agent. Paul, if you'd care to come forward to the speaking area. Thank you. You're welcome, Paul. You've been here before. You're aware you have 10 minutes to present to the committee, and whenever you have a minute left, I'll give you a nod. Okay. Go ahead there now, Paul, whenever you're ready.
Right.
Sorry, the wrong one. Go ahead.
All right. Thank you. Thanks again to the committee for calling this in for further consideration. There are 2 refusal reasons noted for this application, and I want to expand a wee bit on these as follows. Number 1, the proposal will affect the residential amenity of adjacent dwelling by general disturbance. This generally covers 2 areas, which is noise and odour, and I'll comment on these individually later. Second one is contrary to SPO1 and DEO3. The areas for discussion here are: is the farm business established for 6 years? Is the proposal necessary for the efficient use of the agricultural holding? And what impact will it have on residential amenity of the adjacent dwellings? If the committee don't mind, I will comment in reverse order and talk about refusal number 2 and deal with 1 later. A brief history of this application before I move on to the full commentary. This shed has already commenced on site, as the photos shown. An applicant on this occasion actually sought planning advice before commencement. In summary, he was advised that he was exempt from planning if he only added 500 square metres and stayed 75 metres away from his neighbours. He took the advice literally and measured to the house rather than the amenity areas. And then he also thought he's removing sheds at about 180 and he could add the 500 plus the 180, which obviously was wrong. So the existing sheds are 196 and the new is 664. So in his thoughts, he was exempt from planning. The shed is 75 metres away from the dwellings, and he only added on less than 500 square metres. So as he was over the 500, this triggered the reason why we're now here in Planning Committee. Dealing with refusal number 2, the applicant has been maintaining and improving this land for just over 6 years. And while his farm business ID has not been established for 6 years with DAERA, he is a Category 1 farmer and he's been in control of the land and all the improvements and well-being of this farm for well over the 6-year period. When your DAERA ID is not confirmed for 6 years, guidelines do allow, and we've had in many a case here, that if we show we've maintained the land and we have receipts to prove this, and the works carried out and materials bought and used on the farm, then this is acceptable. The report before the committee lists a summary of receipts over the time period. However, the report does take issue with some of the receipts being for cash sales and handwritten references on them. They further take issue with red diesel receipts and no information on what vehicles used the diesel. This really could have been dealt with during the planning application process, but it was raised very late in the day after this was recommended for refusal. Now, the report questions whether cash sales receipts are valid for the farm or if they were used for the applicant's normal business. To be clear here, the applicant has a plastering business. It's a plasterer, basically. Out of the 17 cash sale receipts, I can only agree that possibly 4 of them could have been used in the applicant's business. But members, the remaining receipts in question, if you look closely, are for weed killer, axe shafts, trees and posts, hitch cables, heavy-duty batteries to cover electric fences, fittings for water drinkers, sheep drench and needles. I really can't see how this could be used on the plastering business, so it was clearly for farming purposes. Most people run private business don't have time to separate receipts into nice piles and everything's generally dropped into the accountant. They have to then sort through what can and can't be claimed for that business. So in these receipts, the accountant would write a reference to separate them. This could easily have been clarified again during the planning application process. The above named receipts are for items that could clearly not have been claimed for a plastering business. The receipt for red diesel commentary states that no accompanying information on what farm vehicles used the diesel or the nature of the activities carried out. Again, red diesel cannot lawfully be used in plastering business or construction sites. It's been banned from doing so from 2022. During an application, we should not have to show what every receipt is used for, and it should be taken in good faith. However, for every year that red diesel was bought on the farm, you'll also see corresponding receipts from O'Neill contracts. When the client was trying to get going and make improvements to the farm, he hired O'Neill's and they supplied digger and tractor hire in the same years that the red diesel receipts. It's quite common practice in the country to hire a man and machine and you supply the diesel, and this gets you a better rate than the hourly rate. The answer to the query over the diesel is there in the documents, and we shouldn't have to really over-explain this. The explanation on the receipts, I think, clearly shows that the farm and that applicant has been maintaining and improving this land over the 6-year period, and he is a registered Category 1 farmer. Early Google images in this farm show an overgrown, unmanaged farm that was full of nothing but rushes. I called on the site over the weekend again and if you see the farm now, it's got luscious green grass on every field and all the hedges have been maintained and rewired. It's very clear from a site visit to this farm that it's now well maintained, and this doesn't happen overnight on a rundown farm. Now, moving on is the proposal necessary for the efficient use of the agricultural holding. The report before the members actually states on page 14, it is acknowledged that the existing sheds on site would be unsuitable for storage of machinery and keeping of livestock. So they're not fit for purpose anymore. The report considers that the farm holding does not need a shed of this scale. For clarity, this shed is about a third of the size of a typical hen house. It is not a large shed by modern day standards on a farm. While it is larger than the existing sheds on site, they are small older sheds that are pretty much no longer seen on a modern day farm. The existing equipment from the old sheds is put into the shed, and we take out the size of the lambing pens, then the over and above area is about the 380 metres. For general purpose storage and machinery, the applicant currently owns tractor wagon, digger and a small sheep lorry. With farm security now a massive issue in rural area, it is prudent for them to be secure in the stored in the shed, and this equipment would easily fill the remaining space. Part of the consideration is whether the shed is necessary for the efficient use of the farm. I would ask everyone this: if you're starting out and you're going to build yourself a new house, you don't build a 1-bedroom house. You build a 2 or 3 bedroom house. The applicant wanted to build one good shed and knock down the old sheds, and that would mean that he would no longer have to build any further sheds on the farm. That to me is the definition of efficiency in a farm holding. Now, going back to refusal number 1, while they do mention numerous third-party receptors, I'm only going to mostly deal with number 19, as it is the closest one. The others are more than further away from the 75 metre that's recommended by EHS. So how will the proposal affect residential amenity and adjacent dwelling by general disturbance? This generally covers the 2 areas of noise and odour. Dealing with the general disturbance element of the proposal, page 8 and 9 of the report states that there would be unacceptable level of general disturbance at number 19 because of the general comings and goings and the use of the laneways at the north and the south of 19. These are existing use. The lanes are there and the farming activity already exists whether we have a new shed here or not. There is already a natural grass mound in between the shed and number 19, and this already screens and stops noise and odour. The plan application cannot stop the existing running of this farm and the existing use of the laneways that have been there for over 40 years. This is an established use. Leading on to noise and odour, we've stated during the application that while the shed is located less than 75 metres from the boundary of 19, it is more than 70 metres away from the actual dwelling. Furthermore, for approximately 10 metres inside the boundary of number 19, there is a garage, a hard standing area that has always got cars parked on it, and a new shed. So there's 10 metres of that ground that's definitely not used for amenity that's closest to the shed. And the actual amenity space for number 19 is about 65 metres away from the closest part of our shed that has no openings on it. Now, Environmental Health have provided comments through the application. They've said that the application should be, they have not said that it should be refused as they normally would do. They've said that they cannot support the application. Environmental Health recommends a separation of 75 metres away from farm buildings, and this is pretty standard. But it is very important to note that there's no planning policy that refers to the 75 metre separation distance. This is non-planning guidance, and it's actually at odds with some planning guidance, such as dwelling on a farm. Otherwise, there'd be no farm dwellings nearby and clustering. So we also pointed out that the actual lambing pens are at the furthest point of the shed and are actually about 75 metres away from the amenity space. EHS apply a desktop approach to all applications. One size doesn't fit all. And they actually don't consider the lay of the land and what the building is used for. If this was cows, hens or pigs, I would totally agree with this decision. This is for sheep, 3 months of the year. What I mean here is, for noise in order to actually affect the closest receptor, number 19, it would be a small, yeah, it would be a small miracle, and three things would need to occur at once. Firstly, the sheep would need to start to smell, and they just don't. The smell would need to go out the front door, and the prevailing wind never comes from the northeast. So they would all need to happen, blow the smell up over the roof, blow 70 metres, hit a large grass embankment, and swirl back into number 19. That would be some feat if that all happened at one time. Finally, the report talks about good neighbourliness and fairness. The applicant had discussions with number 17 and 19 before he commenced, and they have no issues at all. 17's delighted. The new shed's further away than what the other sheds is. Number 19 and him are good friends, and they actually do work for each other. The fact there's no representations, I think, shows that there's good neighbours here. To conclude, the applicant here is merely replacing existing farm sheds that are not fit for purpose with modern shed, and his misunderstanding the plan exemptions are not far from what is acceptable. I've clearly shown how the farm business has been established for 6 years and has a business ID. The fishing run of this farm in the future has been set out in this proposal to ensure future needs are met without further development. While on a desktop approach to noise and odour, this may be slightly short of the recommendation for separation, a small miracle would be required to affect any of the neighbours in this case. I respectfully request that you look favourably in this application.
Okay, Paul, just slightly over there, but we'll allow that. Any questions for Paul, member? Nobody indicating, Paul, so you can return to
All
the
right, thank you.
public gallery there, good man. Darren, any comments?
Members, no, I don't propose to go over it again. There's just a few things there in relation to the environmental health comments. They don't recommend refusal. They give us advice, which we then have to consider. So that's the standard response you get back from environmental health. So there's one of 4 options for them: content with conditions, content with no conditions, content with conditions, not content, further information required, or not content and do not support the application. Consultees, as a rule, are encouraged not to recommend refusal because they don't recommend anything. They give advice. Officers come to you with a recommendation, and then you make the decision. So the fact that they haven't recommended refusal is not material or relevant. They have clearly said they don't support the application. What we as a council and you as a committee do with that advice is to consider that and take it into account. And you can go contrary to environmental health, provided you put forward compelling reasons and say why you don't agree with their recommendation. Just in terms of the reason for refusal, again, members, just to remind you that the issues are the impact on the amenity of the neighbour, and the agent has gone through that and sought to rebut that, and that'll be a decision for you to make. In terms of number 2, then, the farm business, not been established for the 6 years. As I say, we have the information before us, but it's officers are very concerned about linking those to this farm business, given they are all cash sales. Lack of farm accounts, etc., and all of that is evident in this case. Not necessary. Again, the size of the building, it's a considerable size building. Well, for 30 sheep, and the agent has just confirmed there that he owns a tractor and a digger, and I think it was a small trailer. We do, if we go back to the floor plan, for a farm business with 30 sheep and that amount of equipment, there was no comment on why a food store is needed, a tea prep area, a small tool store, or a farm office is needed, and also then whether such a building of this size is required. There was a comment that the agent's going to grow, but there is said on the drawing the applicant currently has 30 sheep registered, and this is not expected to increase. So there's a bit of a conflict in some of the information being presented today, members. So recommendation of officers is to refuse for the reasons listed within the report.
Okay, members, any questions? Mr. Devine Gallagher, go ahead, Rosie.
Thank you, Chair. Darren, the environmental health, can you explain to me, they're saying they do not support the application. Did they give more details on that? Could you explain that to me more, please?
Yeah, so the report does go through that, members, if we go back just to their comments and I cut them out just so you could see what exactly they're saying. Now, environmental health, they have a standard rule, and it is not a planning rule, as the agent correctly says. They refer to the 75 metres of a distance that they would prefer and welcome between farm buildings and third parties. That 75 metres comes from the permitted development rights, so the legislation that farmers have to build farm buildings. And within that, it says that the buildings must be 75 metres away from third parties. So that's where that 75 metres comes from. And it's used as a rule by agents and applicants and environmental health to give you a good guide as to when, a development would be acceptable or not. For me as a planning officer, I don't consider that to be the test. The 75 metres, there are plenty of examples where there have been farm buildings within 75 metres and haven't caused any nuisance to anybody. There's others that are further away and do cause nuisance. The key question is, what's the building going to be used for? What size is it? What orientation is the front of the building? Where's the yard? Those issues are key. And the agent has put forward his case about why he considers that this won't cause a nuisance. In terms of the distances, I'll just show you again, members. You can see there the distances, just to be clear here, so everybody's fully aware. So the shed itself, the front elevation with those two large roller shutter doors faces to the top right, northeast of that slide, if you imagine it. The nearby properties then, you can see over on the right, number 15. You can see then number 17 is the applicant's control, so we can exclude that. Number 19 then at the bottom. And you can see then number 25 over on the left. So those are the distances building to building. Environmental health are of the view that you should really include amenity areas within that. As a planning officer, I would support that view that the garden area to a house is as important as the house itself. People do use that for recreational and amenity purposes, and the impact of uses upon that is a significant material consideration. In other words, if you're sitting out the back, is the noise and nuisance from a business or an agricultural building, is it going to unacceptably affect the amenities of the back of that house? So you're sitting out the back, listening to noise and odours, etc., impacting you. So environmental health's comments about you need to include the garden areas is correct in my view. However, as the agent says, you still do have a separation distance of number 15, 90 metres. Number 19, the building faces away from it. And number 25 over on the left, you can see it's west. So there are a number of things to balance up, but the reasons for refusal that the officers presented to your support the advice of environmental health that this will cause an unacceptable effect on the amenity of neighbours.
Any further question, Roisin?
Yes, yeah, just, so the 70, right. 5-metre rule doesn't apply to policy.
So just to confirm, there is no planning policy in our plan strategy that says there is a set distance that a farm building must be away from a third parties.
But environmental health are asking.
They adopt that approach of using that as a rule. The planning, just to be clear, members, the plan policy says that the development will not unacceptably affect the amenities of neighbours. And that's the question you have to decide today.
Okay, Councillor McClafferty, go ahead, John.
Thank you, Chair. And again, Darren, it's just to see what weight can we put on the fact that the agent has said there's no objections. There's no letters of support either, but there's no objections from the neighbours. So what loading can we take for that? That they haven't complained? Can we take a loading on that the neighbours haven't complained, or just because that's part of what the agent had raised, that the neighbours hadn't complained? So can we take a loading on that, or it would be much better if we'd had a letter of support from the neighbours, in my opinion, but that's.
Yeah, so my view as an officer, planning officer, is that the fact there's no objections doesn't mean it's okay and the neighbours are okay with it. We as a council act in the public interest, so we're here to protect the amenities of neighbours and the uses of land nearby. And that's our role. So I think you're correct in your statement there. The fact there's no letters of support can be given as much weight as there's no letters of objection. But as I say, put that all to the side, we are here to act in the public interest, whether there's objections or not.
Councillor Rainey, go ahead, Alan.
Thank you, Chair. As I look at this and I view it, this as a comment from myself, I classify this as a general purpose shed. Certainly it's bigger than the requirement for 30 sheep. Nevertheless, it is a threefold purpose, as I see it. It's for livestock, it's for storage, and I'm sure there will be a requirement for a garage to do some repairs. And looking at the buildings that are the replacement, they are certainly tired and out of date and far past their sell-by date. And in my opinion, this is not elaborate at all. In today's farming, that's there's what it would be necessary to give a bit of comfort space and to keep everything under the one roof. And that's my observations on this. And I think that that's really a betterment, really outstanding betterment for the existing buildings that are there that are not fit for any modern day use. Comment, Chairman.
Councillor Devine Geller, go ahead, Rosie.
Thank you, Chair. I also just want to make a comment just on the receipts end of it. As a business owner myself, I have things on receipts and put them into boxes and give them away to other people. So I just want to make a comment that I would be content with the receipts that I've seen there, and the way people work differently, just as a comment.
Okay. And Councillor O'Reilly, go ahead, Tom.
Chair, I'm going to make a proposal that we go against the officer's recommendations here. On this occasion, I believe that there is sufficient evidence there to negate the 6-year rule. The receipts, we've heard the discussion on that, and I'm accepting of that evidence put forward of it. I believe on this occasion that it is an already working farm and the activities are already there, and that the shed or the sheds that are being replaced are not fit for purpose, and that this would give a modern day shed to allow the continued operation of the farm in a much more efficient way to be able to house animals, storage, and of the rest. The distances are marginal in the recommendations from environmental health, and for that reason, Chair, I'm recommending that or proposing that we go against the officers and approve.
Thank you, Tom. And Councillor Feely?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I'll second that.
Just go to Darren before I come to her.
Just think in relation to the proposal there, the comment was negate the 6-year rule. That you feel the application meets the 6-year rule and demonstrates that there is a Farm Business Act established for the 6 years.
Yes, my apologies. Yeah.
And Councillor Thompson, go ahead, Darren.
Yeah, thanks very much, Chair. Well, I'd be prepared to support Councillor Riley's proposal there. We've listened to a long debate there. We've listened to the agent as well as our planning officer and all the comments that have been made. We've seen it on screen ourselves. So I'm prepared to support Councillor Riley's proposal, seconded by Councillor Feely. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks for that, Darren. So there we have it, members. We have a proposal from Councillor O'Reilly to go against the officer's recommendation, seconded by Councillor Feely. Are we all agreed? Darren, do you wish to sum up there?
So the recommendation then, members, on application number 8, LA 10 2025-0133, recommendation was to refuse planning permission for the reasons listed within the report, subject to 2 reasons. Members have decided to go against the officer's recommendation and grant full planning permission. In terms of conditions, members could ask for the authority to attach suitable conditions as delegated back to officers, and we'll put those on. There'll be standard conditions related to farm buildings. So if you're agreeable to that.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. And taking on board what our planning officer has said, I am prepared to propose that any recommendations that are necessary are subject to it. Thank you.
Proposed by Earl and Councillor O'Reilly.
Just for clarification, Chair, could Darren sort of elaborate a little for me
Yeah.
there?
So the suitable conditions, it's obviously the proposal is to replace the buildings that are currently there. So there'll be a condition to require them to be replaced. In relation to other conditions then, we have to look at the use of the building in terms of the holding of livestock, etc. And if there is sheep proposed temporarily in it for 3 months, otherwise it'll be used as a general purpose store. So there'll be a condition to link that through so the animals can't be kept in it, permanently, because that will obviously change the impact on the immediate neighbours. We'll also then look and just see what landscaping conditions are on it to see what additional landscaping, etc. is needed, and then other standards. So there'll be nothing restrictive going against those. And indeed, members, I'll commit to you today. I'll send them to the agent and let him see them, and we'll agree them between ourselves.
Okay, I'm happy to second Darren's proposal.
Okay. You, Tom. Thank you, Darren. So that's moving on then to application number 9. Darren, go ahead, please.
Okay, members, so application number 9, LA 10, 2025-0581, the full application for the retention of an existing garden centre and provision of a new entrance. The applicant is T. Martin and the location is on the Ballyconnell Road in Derrylin. The recommendation is to refuse planning permission for the reasons within the report and subject to 3 reasons. I'll just go through the application then. You can see on the left then the site location plan. On the right then the image is just zoomed in, members, for ease of reference. But on the left you can see the red line and the blue line then is the additional lands within the applicant's control. Along the Ballyconnell Road you can see the other buildings that are nearby on that image on the left. The proposal then now is to create a new entrance into the site. I'll come on to that in a second. So currently the location of this development then, you can see the yellow star is where the business is currently. The adjacent building then to the northeast of it, and then the other buildings and uses, etc., further along the public road there, along the road edge. So the proposal then before you, members, you can see the existing building then is in the top right. Our site then is the yellow star. There's a display area. You can see there's a rectangle shaped building, which is the polytunnel, and then an office and some car parking, and then displays areas, etc. We'll just to zoom in a bit closer. So the access then, a new access will be created up where the red arrow is coming in and out. And you then have the polytunnel, existing office, parking area and display area. Currently the arrangements on site then, you can see the business then is the yellow star. Currently you access through the entrance into the building next door and then come through their yard and into the site. So it's proposed then to have a direct access out on the public road. Roads are okay with that and content that it meets the required standards, so there's no issues with that at all. Polytunnel then, you can see on the screen, 3.5 meters in height. And to the sort of the eaves, as you would call that, standard clear polythene sheeting polytunnel. Internally, the floor plan then, it's 8 meters by 18. The office building then is a wooden shed, and you can see that on the screen. So just to go through some images, this was the Google Street View image before the unauthorized development and the use commenced on site. And you can see the large shed then, and this was the area of hard standing for that business. And this is a Google Street View image showing the business as it currently stands. So fence along the front and around the side. And then the use on the site with the office, then you can see it in there in the polytunnel and behind it. Again, then the access, you can see currently you come in through the concrete area in the left, and there's a gap there in the gate which allows you into the site. That's proposed to change to have a direct access coming in off the public road, and as I say, roads are content with that. So that's just an image then of the adjacent building. Remember, just to go through the reasons for refusal, so you can see it's contrary to the SP01 DO3. In this case, it's also contrary to the SPPS, paragraph 6.273 and 6.279 for the reasons listed there. You also then have the IB02. The proposal would result in the loss of land last used or used for industrial or business use. And DO3, then it doesn't fall within any of the other types of development which are permitted in accordance with the plan strategy in the countryside. So the recommendation then is to refuse planning permission for the reasons listed within the report.
Thank you, Darren. We have speaking rights. We have Robert Brown on WebEx, and we have Teresa Martin, the applicant. Councillor Green's down as in person.
WebEx.
She is also on WebEx now. Okay, so the way it works, Robert and Teresa, you will have 10 minutes between you. I'll indicate when 9 minutes is gone, and you can share the time between yourselves, whatever way you decide. So whenever you're ready, Robert.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, Chair and Committee. Unfortunately, Teresa is unable to attend this morning, so it'll be just myself speaking. This application is for the retention of a garden centre which was opened over 3 years ago. As Mrs. Martin identified an opening for a garden centre, there was none in the area, and the nearest one is in Lisnaskea. She was unable to source any suitable site within Derrylin town boundaries, and as her husband owns an established workshop in Carwash, and the site where the garden centre is now located was vacant ground which was stoned but had become overgrown. The planning department have advised that garden centres come under retail and not business or industry. DEO 3 states that under the heading of non-residential development, planning permission will be granted for non-residential development in countryside in certain cases. However, it also says that other types of development will only be permitted in accordance with other policies in the local development plan. On the town centres and retail strategy, Table 6, rural shops include farm shops, craft shops, and shops incidental to tourism and recreation facilities. Surely a garden centre can be classed as recreational, as lots of people class gardening as their recreational pastime. Not all garden centres in the county are within town centres. The Manor Garden Centre in Lisnaskea and Ashwoods and Enniskillen being two examples. This garden centre is located beside Mr. Martin's workshop and car wash, and still leaves plenty of space around it for parking. And as confirmed by the planning report, clusters and consolidates with the existing established buildings. Not only is the garden centre located beside existing buildings, 20 metres to the south, there is the site of an existing filling station. This also has a shop, off licence, sells oil, builders' materials, agricultural supplies, as well as selling farm machinery. And this continues towards Ballyconnell with another filling station, a barber's, home decor centre and a gym centre, where a garden centre would complement the overall retail outlets in the area. The planning report states that this development would result in the loss of land used or last used for industry or business. We contest this land was never intended for industry or business use, as the approved planning originally was only for a replacement workshop with the garden centre site left unused. As stated previously, we feel that the garden centre falls under recreation facility and therefore falls within other types of development permitted in accordance with the other policies in the local development plan, and as such should be granted planning approval. Thank you.
Yes, thanks for that, Robert. Any questions for Robert, members? Nobody indicating, Robert, so we'll move on then. And as Teresa's not here, we can move on to Councillor Green, and you're very welcome, Seamus.
Thank you, Chair.
You will have 5 minutes to make representation, Seamus, and whenever you're ready, take it away. And I'll let you know when you're a minute left or so.
No, I'll not take up 5 minutes. Chair, members, thank you for the opportunity to speak. This site is located just 3 minutes from Ballyconnell town centre, along a road that already has a strong mix of rural industries and small businesses. That's the established character of the area, a working rural environment with a filling station, off-licence, builders and agricultural suppliers, a workshop and a car wash, all close by. The land itself has been stoned for many years and originally formed part of a workshop site. It's not greenfield or farmland. It's already developed ground and has just become a bit overgrown with time. What's being proposed here is modest, tidy and makes good use of the existing space. It keeps development within the same cluster of buildings and doesn't extend out onto the open countryside. Plenty of garden centres and similar rural enterprises across the county sit outside settlements, and this proposal fits well within that pattern and policy, supporting local businesses, creating rural employment, and making use of previously developed land. In short, this is sensible, low-impact development that sits comfortably within the surroundings and reflects a true nature of this rural area. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Seamus. Thank you. Any questions for Seamus, members? There's no questions, and then I think it was corrected on that before. Sorry, Seamus. Thanks very much for your presentation, Seamus. Okay, Darren, it's over to yourself then. Comments?
Happy to take any questions, members.
Okay, members, questions? Mr. McCaffrey, John, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm kind of at a loss because how you go. This is deemed to be industrial land, and the garden centre is deemed to be retail. Is that's basically what the crux of this is? I'm sort of trying to get my head around where exactly we come apart. But then, but there's polytunnels, so that means they're technically manufacturing something on site. If they're then is it agriculture? Is it not agriculture? I'm finding it hard to get myself into where a garden centre sits in the. Is it an agricultural enterprise taking part in the country? Is it trying to balance in my head what category garden centres fall into?
Yeah. So the report, it's very clear that what's going on this site is the sale of plants. So it's a retail sale of plants. That is a retailing business. Now, the word business is where the confusion can come in, because people then think, well, I'm a business, so the industrial policies apply. They don't. It's the sale of plants, which is a retailing use. So the retail policies in our plant strategy will apply. The industrial policies clearly set out what uses fall into those policies, and retailing does not fall into the industrial policies. So if we're making a decision today here, members, it's on the basis that this is a retailing use in the countryside. It's not an industrial or a business use in the countryside. It's a retailing use, and the retail policies will apply.
If I could get some clarification then, if the plants are being grown on the site, that would be a nursery. Does a nursery bring it into another category because that's actually the production of the plants, as opposed to just the selling of the plants? I think that's where Councillor McClaffery is getting kind of stuck as well. I think we're all stuck there. So if it was defined as a nursery producing the plants, would that be distinct from selling them on once you've grown them?
So if you have a polytunnel and you're putting plant seeds into a pot and raising those and then selling those, the question is, what are they doing? What's the principal use? Is it the sale of plants, or is it raising plants for sale? What uses fall into? We on other sites have examples where horticultural people grow plants and then wholesale them bulk onto other people. That to me is a different use from what's going on here. This is, you arrive at the site and he's selling products related to gardening. So you walk around, you look at it, it's a retail sale of gardening equipment, gardening plants, other garden things. So this is the sale of things to do with your dwelling house, your private garden. If we go back to the photographs, you'll see there, this is the sale of items. This is not somebody growing plants and then selling them.
Okay, Councillor Feely, go ahead on it.
Yeah, I'm kind of same as John and yourself. I was just confused on this one too, Tommy, but I would be not fit to get the words right. I would be proposing to go again the officer's recommendation here, but I just don't know how to go about it, and that's what I'm struggling here at the minute now. But I've won. So that's my coming on, maybe see Thomas come in or something like that.
Okay, Councillor Devine Gallagher, go ahead, Roisin.
Darren, is it used for any other types of, like there's, I know they're saying they're selling, but is it used like, for instance, those slides for sale, or do children come and play on those when they're there?
Members, I think we have to stick with the evidence before us, and in the evidence of the speaking rights, you know, the agent was quite clear what the use is here. This is somebody operating a garden centre. Now, we have to go forward on the basis of that's what it is, and we can't try and pull in other uses, etc. So we have to be clear, this is a garden centre. A garden centre falls into a retailing use. Now, that's the decision then, how we go forward in interpreting our plan strategy against that use.
Councillor Thompson, go ahead, Darren.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks to Darren for that. I was going to come in and ask our solicitor, Anne Marie, and see what her definition of it is. Thank you.
Go ahead, Anne Marie.
Sorry, what definition of exactly?
Yeah, Anne-Marie, I think just everybody's a bit confused in the whole issue, and Darren has outlined what his interpretation of it is, but it's just with regard to the total application and where it falls under. You can elaborate. Thank you.
Well, I do think, members, that the report has set out what it falls under in terms of retail use. And I haven't heard any evidence that would tend to suggest to me that the use is anything other than that. I'm afraid I can't really offer anything other, just given that it seems to be quite a fine line that members are struggling with, but that's where it sits within the policy.
So that, sorry, Councillor Devine Gallagher again.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just putting it out there. So the time of COVID, there was a problem with garden centres, whether they were to be opened or not, under different rules at the time. Does anybody else remember that? No, maybe I'm, yeah. So it was a confusion at that time. So hence why we're getting confused now, maybe. Yeah, just.
Councillor Robinson, Paul.
I'm confused with this whole thing because.
Thought you were going to clear it up first, Paul.
No. You're saying it's a garden centre, they're selling stuff, right? Buying in plants, they're selling them there. Well, there's a machinery place there as well. They're buying in tillers, buying in machinery, they're selling them as well. You can count that as retail, not business. That's the way I look at it, isn't it?
That's essentially it. That is correct. If you're bringing a product in and you're then selling that on, that's a retail business. And that, you know, that's what a garden centre does. It's selling plants, it's selling those other equipment and other items. So
They're growing it on the site as well.
it may be, but the principal use, when you know, if you're standing there and somebody said to you, what is this? It's a garden centre selling stuff, you know. It's not a lot of polytunnels with lots of trays that then they wholesale on to somebody else or anything like that there. This is a garden centre, and, you know, to the public out there, a garden centre is somewhere you go to buy plants and buy things. So I think there'd be a danger, members, if we slipped into another use, there'd be a danger then in terms of the decision that we've made. If we approach it from the fact that it is a garden centre and it is a retailing use, the agent did put forward his case why he felt that was okay in the countryside. And he put forward a reason why he feels it meets the plan strategy. He wasn't of the view that it's industrial use or anything like that. He was of the view in terms of it's a rural shop, countryside, retail use, incidental to recreational uses. So the agent wasn't even making the argument that it's industry.
Okay, Paul, want to come in for clarification there, Paul, please?
Yeah, it's just following on from that, members. I think on the evidence that we have before us, it's a retailing use. It's described as a garden centre. All the evidence that we have is that they're selling the plants. That's retail in use. Anne Marie's provided the advice. It's not that the plan strategy prevents retailing within the countryside. There's a number of options there. There's shops associated with farm diversification, rural shops and all, but we have no evidence around it fitting in with any of the compliant policy criteria at the minute. There does seem to be a bit of confusion with the agent at what type of use it falls within, but it's certainly a retail in use. And I think we need to try and to be consistent with the policies within the plan strategy. If we're going to try and approve this, we need to fit it within one of the acceptable criteria. And maybe there's just a lack of evidence there, members, of how it fits in within one of those criteria.
Would there be merit in a deferral for that discussion to take place, Paul, do you believe?
Look, ultimately, Chair, that's a matter for members and what they want to do. I think I do think there's been some confusion from the agent. Initially, he had described it and presented as supporting information in terms of industrial. It's not industrial. I know in his speaking rights, he also referred to it as open space. It's most definitely not open space. It is a retail in use. And perhaps he needs an opportunity to try and present an argument in terms of that retail in use and how it might fit in. Well, there is a farm business there and diversification. And if not, then unfortunately, it wouldn't be consistent with the policies and the plan strategy.
Thanks for that, Paul. Councillor McCloughlin, go ahead, John.
Yeah, thank you. I was basically going to come in similar to yourself, Chair, and I feel there's a lot of confusion here, and the agent perhaps didn't clarify it, and the fact that we didn't have the actual business owner here to answer questions that maybe the agent didn't touch upon. I think we maybe go for a deferral on this to allow them to better present it, and then the deferral allows you to come back again to us at a later stage where perhaps more clarity might present itself on that occasion.
John?
That's my proposal, Chair.
Roshan, I'm going to go to Councillor Feely, as I've had you in about 3 or 4 times there. So.
Yeah, I'll second John's proposal for deferral.
Yeah. So we have a proposal to defer from Councillor McCloughlin. Sorry, go ahead, Darren, before we take it.
Members, could I suggest, rather than just a straightforward deferral, you do have the option to defer, sort of delegate the application back to the nominated officer to be dealt with under the scheme of delegation. That would allow us then to review what comes in, and if it meets the plan strategy, then we don't have to come back to the committee. The application can go forward then as an approval. So it maybe cut out some paperwork and save a bit of time if, and ultimately, it does turn into an approval. So it would be.
Yeah, thanks for that.
More than happy to take the advice from the officers and
okay, so the proposal is then that it's back to officers for the discussion. Happy enough with that, Councillor Feely? Proposed and second accordingly, members. Are we all satisfied with that solution? Great, thank you, members. Sum up there now, Darren, please.
Yeah.
If you can.
Number 9, then, LA 10, 2025-0581. The recommendation of officers was to refuse planning permission for the reasons listed within the report, subject to 3 reasons. Members have agreed to delegate the application back to the nominated officer to be dealt with under the scheme of delegation in accordance with the Planning Committee protocol.
Thanks for that, Darren. And Councillor O'Reilly. Tom, go ahead.
Chair, just before we, an issue of how we do business. Just before we leave the screen there, we have the full size of the screen showing the representation and who's speaking or whatever. And on the other side of it, we have a tiny little screen of who is actually doing the speaking. Could we reverse that so that, you know, for future presentations, we can actually see the people that are a little disconcerting when you struggle to see who's even speaking.
So you wanted Councillor Green in a bigger picture, is that it, Tom? And if Councillor Green's still there, I'm sure he's delighted to hear that, Tom. Thank you. Okay, members, with that, we'll move on of the agenda. And thanks again, Councillor Green and Robert. Thank you. So we're moving on to item 5. we need to go into confidential at this stage? No. Oh, that's the application that was withdrawn, right? Yeah. Okay, sorry, members. Moving on then to item 6. Any urgent and relevant business, and there was an issue that I believe I raised myself when we saw the report from NI Water come in as a confidential item. The discussion ensued that previously NI Water reports came into the RNC committee, I believe, in open forum, but they've decided to put it into confidential, and I think it's maybe worth writing a letter, at least to NI Water, for an explanation, and maybe request that, as was the previous practice, the open display of the real position of where our sewerage system is across our district is of public interest, I believe. It's certainly of interest to councillors, so I believe it should at least come to the open forums of this council. So any thoughts on that, member? Go ahead, Paul.
I make a proposal, Tom.
And Paul, what type of proposal would you wish at this stage to propose, to write a letter, or have you any thoughts on it?
Yeah, Chair. If members are content, you're content, Chair, we'll write a letter to NI Water saying that members have resolved that we would request that matter is dealt with in open business and it's not confidential, so it's in the public interest that everyone is side of it.
And would be proposing for back to original RNC committee, or at least to the planning, maybe back to the RNC, I think. Allows every councillor to get a look at it. That'd be right. That'd be fair, yeah. Okay, Paul, you're making that proposal.
Yeah.
Errol?
Thank you, Chair. I'll second Councillor Robinson's proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. And Tom?
I'm happy enough with that, Chair. Can you just clarify, maybe, we had this issue before, and sort of, it seems to be a pattern, is it, that there's a reluctance by NI Water to sort of divulge information, and even as a planning committee, we're having to fight hard to get sight of stuff. Surely this needs to be flagged up a little bit higher than NI Water. That, you know, we're in a, and I'm not going to, Chair, get onto my soapbox here, but I give a little context. We have a situation where we meet the Deputy Permanent Secretary of DFI, who says they haven't the officers to give us information nowadays. We are now, from NI Water, having to fight to get any information released to us. And if we do, we're not allowed to tell anybody else the information contained. There is a determined effort here, I believe, to restrict the ability of local government to carry out its functions. And I think that needs to be flagged up somewhere a little bit higher than NI Water. So,
yeah, that's a thought, Tom. NI Water is an agency of DFI, is that correct? So maybe a letter to the minister would be more appropriate, or CC the minister in their letter.
In addition to?
In addition to.
I'm
sorry,
Chair, I probably would even go so far as to say, and in addition to that, to the Deputy First Minister's office, because I think this is, you know, a bit of a pattern that I see emerging, that, and I go back to the thing that local government must be given its due respect and allowed to carry out its functions, and not have one hand tied behind its back, if not two.
Thanks for that, Tom. And Sinead, or Sinead, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just going to come in to say, no, I think that we could, if members are content to amend the proposal, we could write then to all with a similar letter, NI Water, the Department for Infrastructure Minister, and then, as you've said, Councillor Relly, First and Deputy First Minister.
Okay, proposer and second are happy enough with that expansion?
Thank you, Chair. Happy enough with all of that. But however, I think we should add in all the party leaders as Stormont. Party leaders as Stormont. Then everybody's into the envelope, and they can discuss and action accordingly. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah. It is concerning, and probably is systematic of a problem with your previous knowledge of that institution, Tom, we'll go with your proposal. Thank you. Okay, no other. Oh, yes, indeed, yes. Was included. Okay, all agreed with that, members? Yeah. Okay, now we have to move into confidential, I believe. Yeah. So got a proposer, Councillor Feely, seconded Councillor Devine Gallagher. We'll go into confidential. Councillor Thompson. Give me the sign when we're back online and we'll get a sum up, please. So it's done then. Just while we're waiting there, members, a reminder that the trip to Cookstown on Monday, we've all been already, I think we've all been registered. So to see as many as possible there. Yeah. Well, we're back at the listing. Oh, we got clarification of that now from Sinead Tump. Okay, what's going on there? Go ahead, Sinead. Sorry, put you off again.
Thank you, Chair. So while in confidential business, members considered a report on a legal matter and noted the update, and members also considered a report on advanced notice of listings and agreed the recommendation in the report.
Just propose and seconder for that first, and then I'll ask the question. Proposed. Proposer and seconder, please. Proposed Councillor Robertson, seconder Councillor McCloughlin. Thank you, members. Have you an answer for Tom on that?
Yeah.
And just a query from Councillor O'Reilly as to why one item was in confidential there, clarification from Paul. Thank you.
Yeah, I suppose it goes back to similar point to way NI Water members, but in the correspondence, DFC had asked us to keep this confidential because they don't obviously want anything to happen to the structures that's been proposed to be listed in the interim. So all the discussion and the feedback then must be done in confidential business with ourselves.
Happy enough, Tom? And Councillor Feely?
Thanks, Tommy. Thanks, Ron. I forgot about that in Cookstown. Whereabouts is it again? Did we get an email about that?
There is an email out there.
Oh, is there?
Probably in your electronic diary already, aren't you? But,
Is it 9 that morning? Is it 9?
well, you'll be away by 9. It's 10:30, I think, up there.
Oh.
Right. Well, I do believe all planning members were registered, isn't that right? Hold on.
We had discussed it at the local development plan steering group, and then I think it was tabled at the council meeting as well, maybe, if I was right. But Councillor Devine Gallagher, if you wish to attend, I'll try and get you on the list, if you do want to attend and your name's not there.
Okay. Happy enough for that. That's just a conversation. So that, I think, brings our business to the end. So, Slánna, will you? Safe home.